Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. We are brought to you tonight by Home Circle Media for the latest and greatest in anime gear, everything from pens, pencils, stationery, and officially licensed art books. Be sure to check out homecirclemedia.com today or look for them at an upcoming convention near you. We're also brought to you tonight by Casey Fox. For all of your artwork, cosplay, and photography needs, be sure to check out Casey Fox, that's KAYCIFOXX, on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. They will also be making their tabling debut or comeback at AAC, or another anime convention, coming up in October in Massachusetts. So if you'd like to check out the artwork, be sure to stop by their table and say hi to them. Welcome once again to Anime-Zing Radio. I'm your host, Doug Engler. Joining me as always in the co-host seats are our good friends Angela Rose.
Hello.
And Darren Starling, who is not dead yet.
Hello.
And we are excited. We've got a fantastic guest that's joining us tonight. We met this gentleman at Kineticon, had a wonderful conversation with him, and he reached out about wanting to come on the show, and we are honored to have Scree Cosplay joining us. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you. It's nice to be on the show.
And for our listeners and viewers out there who may not know who you are, tell everybody a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Scree Cosplay. If you've been to PAX East, you've probably seen me at the Boston Uprising booth. I did a lot of cosplay work with them. I'm usually Boston Uprising Anna, so I've probably run into a few people every once in a while. Outside of that, I cosplay Genshin Impact, Overwatch, and then I also do a lot of like horror-themed cosplay too.
Awesome. What got you interested in doing cosplay?
Oh, it was like way back when I was 11, back in 2010 or so. All my friends were getting into it, and they're like, "You gotta try this." You know, as every good story starts. So I went ahead and tried cosplaying with them, and just got more and more into it. And then said, "Well, I used to know how to sew, so I started learning how to sew and picking that up back up again, and started making my own costumes, started making armor work, and now I'm where I am now, and I'm doing events with larger companies, which is a lot of fun."
What is it like to transition from being, I'm trying to think of the best way to word this, an average cosplayer or a casual cosplayer like me, as opposed to somebody who you have elevated yourself to where you're able to work with companies to dress up as characters or from games or stuff that they work on to help promote them?
Oh, it's such like a crazy feeling, because like you go from just like kind of doing it for yourself, and now you see other people and they come in and they go, "Wow, I really love your costume. I really love this character, this concept, whatever it is you might be cosplaying." And it's just like a totally different feeling. Like I did a lot of performance art and stuff like that, and just the idea of being an entertainer and the idea of being an actor, it's always really appealed to me, and it's always like the best part of life is putting a smile on other people's faces. So the fact that I get to do that through cosplay, which is just a hobby I started as a child, is amazing, and it's such like a stark transition.
I swear I didn't plan that. You planned this. You mentioned Overwatch. I've actually got my Mercy shirt on. I don't know. There was one PAX Overwatch was a lot of fun. I too have cosplayed from Overwatch back in the day.
Back in the day, the good old days.
The good old days. Yeah. No, I have not actually cosplayed since actually I think 2019. But what are some of your what would you say is your favorite character that you have cosplayed?
Ooh, probably another Overwatch character. Reinhardt was probably my favorite build, because that was my first big like armor build, and it wasn't like I wasn't like extreme costumes where I was out there on stilts. I was just like made a costume that was fit to me, so it was like me 5'10" with like a bunch of foam armor on, and I had like the prosthetics and the eye and everything, and that was like the greatest experience and something fun. So I'm a party performer too. So my hammer was only about maybe 5 pounds. It was PVC pipe and a ton of foam. So the best thing was handing it off to kids when they would go to take a photo with me, and they felt so strong and felt so cool, like getting to hold that hammer.
That's cool. I'm trying to pull up some of your stuff. You are on Instagram.
Yeah, that's where you'll be able to find. I think I have my Reinhardt on there still.
So
Reinhardt is so much fun.
He was like one of my favorite characters, him and Anna.
And I don't know the characters from all of that.
Overwatch is a video game, and the servers are about to go down for good when Overwatch 2 launches. But those were some good times.
Yeah, I stopped playing a solid 2 years ago. I'm still like I peek in on the fandom, and it still has a soft spot in my heart. It's like very nostalgic for me.
Same.
So we have some of your work here.
Oh, yeah, you go back and it's all pretty much all Overwatch. You can see some of the Boston Uprising stuff I did there too.
Yup. Oh my god, I remember that. Because I back in like year 1, I went to a couple of Uprising events, and I actually have, through a luck of the raffle, I have a signed Boston Uprising jersey hanging in my closet.
Oh,
And
that's so
and
cool.
since you were just talking about this before we came on the air, Ange,
Yep.
here's a Deku.
I have oh, what's his name? I can't even remember his name. The speedy guy with the hands that go like this.
Ida.
Yeah, that's how long it's been since I've watched Boku no Hero, but 2018, I was really
New
into it.
season starts like in a couple of weeks.
I still gotta catch up. I'm learning about all the new stuff with the vampire girl and everything, and I'm just like, oh my god, I've missed so much.
You
I've
haven't
actually not
missed a whole lot.
I haven't.
No.
I'm not gonna say it's quality because it's very formulaic, but it's so much fun. I'm enjoying it.
And good evening, Ross. I'm glad to see that you are joining us tonight. Hello to everybody who's tuning in live while we're here on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And hello to all of you who listen in after the fact on all the podcast sites out there. We thank everybody who tunes in. If you want to catch these shows live, you've got to come Sunday nights, 8 to 10 p.m. Eastern. Find us on YouTube at Anime-Zing Radio. Just search the words Anime-Zing, Z-I-N-G, and radio. And you can find our channel, subscribe, and join us when we're live. We have an interactive chat room. We monitor it. Any questions you have for us or the guests, we would love to have the interaction. I'm sure our guests love the interactions as well, getting questions from people around the country and around the world. So definitely, please join us if you can. We would love to see more friendly faces coming into the chat room. And tonight our guest is Scree Cosplay. If you're just joining us, a very talented cosplayer out of the New England area. And in the email, you said you had worked with a lot of companies, including Blizzard.
Yeah. So for Overwatch League 2019, I want to say it was the first world final. Or I guess it is world final because it's all the countries competing against each other. I was a sponsored cosplayer over in Pennsylvania where they had the 2 last teams go against each other.
What was that like?
That was also crazy. So we were all we had a big diva group, and they were like, we want you all to dress up as different divas from different teams. So I was Boston Uprising diva, and then we had NYXL Atlanta, all the divas. We all gathered around, took photos. It was nice because no one else could move, and we could all kind of move and dance and really interact with people. So we'd have like the bigger cosplayers, like the Ashes, whoever else who had like all this armor on them, and then we had the divas who would run around and take photos and just like talk to people. So that was a ton of fun.
And has it been kind of a crazy experience to be able to go to all these events as you said, you were a sponsored cosplayer to go to this event? As somebody who cosplays for fun and not very often and not very well, I can't imagine what it'd be like to be invited as, a guest cosplayer or something of that nature. So what has your experience been hitting that level?
Yeah, it's like a dream, and I'm not at like the Yaya Han, Jessica Nigri level where I can like make this a living, but to be able to just like say I got invited to a convention and I can be able to go to the convention for free and can stay with like something I'm very passionate about and show off my work. It's like a dream come true. And I know it's not like the biggest, most amazing thing, but like it's such a large step from like just being a guest at a convention that like I'm so grateful that I've been able to get here.
And like you said, you've been at this for quite a while. It's not something that just happened overnight. And you make everything yourself or most?
Yeah, nowadays I make pretty much everything myself. Beetlejuice I made myself. I'm working on Howl from Howl's Moving Castle right now, and that's a lot 'cause it's a lot of quilting. But I
Oh,
do
I can
that. I do
imagine.
armor work. Pretty much everything I make by myself. The only exception is like uniforms. Might as well just buy the uniform so I can match all my friends.
That's true. How long does it take you on average to work on an armor piece? If say you're one of your, not like I say like the most challenging one, because obviously the most challenging one is going to take a lot more time than an easier one. But if you had to average it out, how long would it normally take you for an average piece of armor?
Yeah, it really depends on the complexity of it. So I'm like, if it's kind of in a middle range, we're gonna go probably around like 3 to 6 months, and that just depends on the weather even, because you can't spray paint if it's bad out, if you don't have the right like temperature out, and how busy I am, and how much time I can physically put into it. Because it's only so much time you can spend cutting out random pieces of geometry and gluing it together and hoping it all patterns right.
And New England weather is unpredictable at
Oh
best.
yeah.
Okay, and having been down that road, if you try and spray paint in a not ventilated area in the winter, that's just asking for trouble.
No, it's not great. I've been there. Not making that mistake again. I take care of myself now.
And I also learned that you don't spray paint leaning pieces against the back of your car, because then your bumper looks really, really horrible.
Some call it art.
I don't have that car anymore, so I don't have to worry about it. But it was definitely interesting spray painting pool noodles for a cosplay.
How did you do pool noodles for?
Costume, we actually entered in the masquerade for Anime Boston 2018, 2019. But my wife and I were Ginchi and Ramaru from Kakario.
Oh,
So
okay, yeah.
Ramaru has the big loops that go behind him. So we used pool noodle with wire in to get the shape. So we had to paint them white and blue. So it was a lot of, okay, paint the foam primer that's safe on foam, and then paint over that with the colors. And yeah, it was definitely something interesting.
Oh, that's hard too. I'm always afraid to like go in after the primer. I'm like, if I missed one spot, like it's all over. I got to start from scratch. It's pool noodle, so it's not like a lot of cost, but it's like, oh, I don't want to do this again. So much time that goes into it, even just priming.
And then you're afraid to use like any really sticky tape on there, because you peel that off because it was patterned white, blue, white, blue, white, blue the whole way through. So you obviously had to section off where the white is, where the blue goes. And if it adheres to the foam too much and you rip a piece off, now you're starting over from scratch too. So, and fortunately for me, I had the easier parts of like painting stuff. My wife had to figure out how to put it all together, but I did help with some of the sewing, because my character had 9 tails, which ended up weighing about 14 pounds of the fluff. So that was pretty heavy. And walking around, because our hotel was about a 10-minute walk from the convention center outside. So we had to walk in, Easter weekend, like early April, windy day in the city of Boston. Fortunately, the wig stayed on, but people got some really weird looks looking at the tails.
That's something no one thinks about until they do it. Like
if it was 2018 or 2019, they shouldn't have been looking that weird, because Ari was from League of Legends was still a popular cosplay as well with the big tails.
I still think Bostoners, for the most part, forget when Anime Boston is until it comes, because the Friday and usually like the Thursday and Friday when the cosplayers first show up, people are caught off guard. And if you really want to have fun, be in cosplay and take the purple line into South Station, and then talk to one of the Boston police officers to ask where the subway is. They will give you looks like you are absolutely nuts, and they're not sure if they should lock you up or help you out.
See, I never had that problem. I drive. I will say driving in some of the heeled boots I've used for cosplay, not so fun.
We cosplayed from Planet Cuties one year, and we took the T in from the Bridgewater State University T station.
Mhm.
So all the business people early Friday morning going into Boston, and then 2 people dressed as space cats.
Just your average day, you know.
The best part was some of them were like, "Don't look, don't no." Like you could see them on the phone, like,
See,
I don't want to see this.
If I don't see them, they don't see me. Like,
see, I have stories like that are unrelated to cosplay.
But knowing you, that doesn't surprise me.
Well, no, I was a bridesmaid. I was a bridesmaid in my friend's wedding. Except I didn't stay in the hotel because it was just at the waterfront. I can drive, and I know where the cheap parking garages are. But the person that was doing my hair specifically told me to wash it and don't dry it. At the time, my hair was halfway down my back, so I'm literally running around Haymarket, Faneuil Hall area with my hair in like one of those those towel things, and a bridesmaid's dress and a hoodie because it was cold enough out where I needed a hoodie. And just like, it's one of those things where nobody gave it a second glance, and my friend and I are, as we're getting food for like the rest of the wedding party, she's remarking on how strange it is that no one has actually said anything. But that's Boston.
Yeah. Come to expect stuff like that.
Exactly.
Now, what you're talking about that you were 11 years old when you first tried cosplay. What was your first costume that you dressed up?
it was Haruhi Suzumiya, and I made it all myself. I just got, you know, the cheap cotton from Joanne Fabrics, and it was for Halloween, and it fell apart on me like midway through the night. So like I went home and got a different costume, and then went back out again to get more candy because I was 10 or 11 at the time. And then after that, I cosplayed China from Hetalia. So like those two are like, the China one actually held up, which was nice. So I could use that for a few more years after. But Haruhi was really my first one.
Now, do you prefer to cosplay from anime or video games or just whatever because you love cosplaying?
Yeah, really, it's whatever. Like lately, I've been more into doing horror stuff and doing American cartoons and literature. Before, I was really into doing video games. So I'm sure as I'm having more time to myself again, and anime's kind of like blown up again, there's been a lot of new animes that I've really liked. I'm gonna get back into anime again.
Any specific anime you're looking forward to or recently watched?
Oh, I'm still obsessed with Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. It's oh, I love that.
This was not planned.
But I've been obsessed with that anime. It's so cute. Just seeing like, because I think they're only like 13 or 14, so seeing these literal kids and they're just like kind of having these soulmate like interactions, it's just so sweet. Like I could just sit back and it's just like a calming anime to watch.
And what were you saying, Darren?
I was about to say, I agree. It's good. I've only made it about halfway through because other stuff got in the way, but I did like what I saw.
It is a really good anime,
Yeah.
and recently I've been seeing a lot more cosplayers from Toilet Bound than I did when it first came out, which is kind of surprising. Granted, a lot of the times that I'd seen more cosplayers was when voice actors from that anime were at the cons we were at, which includes both Pucci cons, and I saw a few at Colossal Con East.
Oh, nice.
Nene seems to be the most popular one. And question from the chat room. Ross, one of our loyal listeners, says, I've got a question. Judging by the way you're looking, may I assume you're going to be Beetlejuice for Halloween, sir?
That I think I am. I'm actually going to Anime Week in Atlanta this year, which is right on Halloween weekend. And every year I bring Beetlejuice just because he's fun. I was hoping to do a panel this year, but I got waitlisted. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. We might have a Beetlejuice panel after all.
You never know. I was waitlisted for Anime Boston this year, so I expected to not end up with a panel, and then I ended up first panel of the con Friday morning, 9 a.m. I'm like, okay. And of course, Angela was going to join us, but she had to work, so she wasn't going to be there
Right.
till later in the afternoon. So I had this whole panel room on the 3rd floor of the Heinz. The room, if it filled up, would probably be like 500 people, which I've never done a panel that big. The only other time I had done the podcasting panel was at PoochieCon, and I had like 5 people outside of my family. So having 40 or 50 people was a little bit easier to deal with, and it was fun. I find panels sometimes to be a little nerve-wracking, but once I get past the initial butterflies, usually I go into show mode and it's easy for me.
I'm going to bring this up from Ross because this is something I didn't know. They're making a sequel of Beetlejuice after all these years.
Oh, are they actually? I actually didn't know that one.
Neither did I.
I thought
I
it was
have
dead.
heard.
Like dead.
Same. But that's a classic movie.
It really is.
Apparently, anime is not the only thing that you have to wait 7-8 years for a reboot of. Yeah.
This is probably closer to 20.
Yeah.
So we're looking at Inuyasha to Yashahime.
Hold on. Now I'm actually going to look that up because I remember watching that when I was. All right. Beetlejuice was released in 1988.
Oh, 88.
Oh my god.
So.
Oh my god. I feel old.
Same.
Oh, good god. I hate hearing facts like that. It's like, oh, I remember that so well. Yeah, that happened in 1980. Oh, shut up.
Well, no, I remember
40 years ago.
I remember watching it on VHS tape.
I remember a lot of stuff on VHS tape. I wore out the Never-Ending Story.
I wish there's one VHS tape that I wish I still had that was a homebrew, basically a bunch of Christmas stuff recorded off TV from like the 80s. Oh, okay.
Back when we could do that.
Beetlejuice 2, directed by Tim Burton, is basically about a ghost who's recruited to help haunt a house. And knowing that it's Tim Burton means it's either going to be like the best thing ever or hot trash.
And either way, it's going to make a lot of money.
With no in between, like there is no middle ground. It's either going to be the best thing ever or garbage, and it will make money because Tim Burton is really good at what he does. Sometimes he just misses.
So that's interesting. And what's funny is I actually this weekend just booked a guest for October 16th who also has cosplayed as Beetlejuice. In the past, his name is Dan Flanders. He's out of Vermont. He has Manic Mart. He creates masks and things of that nature. In fact, I can't turn the camera, but we have one of his masks hanging on the wall that he makes out of cardboard, and they are fantastic. He also does like Krampus in Burlington and stuff like that. He loves the horror side of things. So
Sounds
it'll
like
be
my kind of guy.
So we will have Dan Flanders from Manic Mart joining us October 16th, our typical October guest. We have a couple that have become synonymous for October for the guests for us, have been, I think this is his 3rd or 4th October that he's joined us. Speaking of which, I've got to reach out to the other one, Vicky Camp from Delicious Chocolates, and see if she's available for the 30th, because she missed last year. She wasn't doing much, so...
Son of a gun.
You caught yourself there.
Filters, they work sometimes.
The coffee is still kicked in, I see.
That wasn't coffee, it was hot chocolate.
Still caffeine. Not
Coffee
as much, but still there.
Coffee this late would mean I don't sleep. But
that's reserved for the Monday night D&D game.
Yes, very much so.
So this is our show. We get sidetracked, random stuff happens. It's just very laid back and fun.
I'm always down to talk about D&D. So
are you another D&D? Are you another D&D player?
Yes. Right now we're just playing Pokemon Tabletop. We don't have any like 5e games, but I love D&D.
Wait, there's a tape. I should not be surprised by this, but there is a special Pokemon tabletop system.
Yeah, I think it's called Pokemon Tabletop United. It's all free. You can get it all online. It has like websites, and you can download the DM book and the player book, and you can download the Pokedex.
Is it D20 based?
D6 based.
Okay. I say
That might
this.
be something fun to try for the Wednesday night that we've been talking about.
No, that's just interesting because that's one of those. I've done so many systems over the years. 20 years of tabletop role playing, and for a large chunk of that, we had a chronic GM who hated Dungeons and Dragons, so would run us through literally every other system. But that was in the days of 3, 5, and 4th edition. So,
in fact, Darren might even be interested in a Pokemon tabletop game.
Probably.
I'd try it.
It could be something fun, and we've been talking behind the scenes about, because I am very new to the tabletop stuff. In fact, the first time I really played a one-off D&D style game was live on the air about a month or so ago. My friend Jay Morris, who's a comic artist, created his own game to go with the comic series that he has, and so we played it live on the air. It was a 3-hour special. And people got to see how good or bad I rolled, playing for the first time and not really knowing what I was doing. And I actually had a really good time.
And see, that's the point. Role playing the point of D&D and role playing games in general is to tell a story and have fun and basically do all the things that you wouldn't be able to do in normal life. I suppose it's the same as video games. But in a role playing game that I know is not real and is literally just a made up thing, if I'm burning down buildings and lighting everything on fire, it's a healthy outlet for stress. Trying to explain this to my boss was entertaining because he walked into the room in a conversation 2 of us were having about Borderlands 3, because 2 of us were playing it at the we both were playing the game, just we were in different spots, and boss was trying to follow conversation and failed.
I've tried Borderlands 2. Was it Borderlands 2 or 3 that I played? I don't remember. I tried it and got stuck in an area. I was like, I can't figure this thing out, so I'm done.
That's fair.
But I'm also, that's not my normal style of game. It's a huge game, very popular. I wanted to try it to experience it, so I had knowledge, because we've had voice actors from the games on the show. So if I'm going to talk to them about it, I want to be at least semi-educated and not a complete idiot.
So if I told you Borderlands was one of my favorite video game franchises, you wouldn't be surprised.
No. If I told you my first interview was with Gage from Borderlands, would you be surprised?
That's awesome.
So the first voice actor I ever interviewed was Jeremy Lee, who was Gage.
Oh, God. I forgot about that.
And I was a co-host on the show that we interviewed her on, which was amazing. And it was basically because of that show, on a paranormal talk show or a paranormal pop culture style show, as opposed to anime pop culture like we are now, that led to doing this show.
Yeah, and so over the years, we've seen a lot of evolution of not only anime but cosplay and pop culture. As you started cosplaying so young, as you've over the years, how have things changed, like, from your perspective?
Oh, yeah, they've kind of almost become more industrialized, I guess. Like now, like cosplay is something you can market, like you can make money off of cosplay. So you see like a lot more people cosplaying from bigger things, and it's not like that they're cosplaying for other people. They're definitely cosplaying for themselves too, but they're like doing it because they're like, this is big. I like want to get in on this, because the bigger the thing, like the more people are going to recognize you, the more people you can talk to. And I remember like when I was like 11 or 12 at Anime Boston, I'd be like, no idea what you're cosplaying. And they'd tell me all about like this brand new anime or this brand new game, and like we could bond over that, and you could just like talk to random people. But now it's kind of like, why don't you know the thing? I'm cosplaying Genshin Impact. You don't know what Genshin Impact is? It's like, it's very weird now compared to 10 years ago when I first got into it.
And it is funny because it's like at one point it almost seems like every year or every couple of years something takes the cosplay world by storm, whether it's an anime or a video game. And I know, Angela, you and I have had this conversation of we'll go to a convention, but like, I don't know what that cosplay is, so it's got to be from this. Now it's I don't know what that cosplay is, so it's got to be Genshin. Years past, it was My Hero, or I heard people say, oh, that's got to be one of those Attack on Titan cosplayers, or
the big one. The big one for me, if I didn't recognize it, it was League of Legends. And then pandemic happened, and then post-pandemic, it's I don't recognize it, it has to be Genshin Impact.
and not to take anything away from Genshin Impact, the visuals from that are breathtaking. I played it. I mean, I've only played an hour and a half of it, but I was actually surprised by the load-in screen, how detailed that was. And then looking at the scenery, like the characters, you would expect them to pop out, be adorable characters, the detail in them to be really good. I was more impressed by the background detail, the grass, the trees, the flow of the water, things of that nature, which a lot of times in games kind of gets forgotten about. I mean, there's so many games out there. You look at the characters, they look amazing, but you go into a village and all the buildings look the same. It's like they use the same computer generated image, changed a color, but you have the same shape for every house. And there's no individuality, where like you go into the town in Genshin and the buildings are separate. The first area that I went to had multiple levels. You could put wings on and fly down. And I thought that the scenery was actually quite well done in that.
Doug, when the anime for Genshin comes out, are you going to watch it?
I will probably give it the 3-episode trial. I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to spend money on the gacha side of Genshin, which I know you wanted to give me crap on when I first said I started playing it.
I did, because I
am not gigging.
I took one look at the game, realized it was not for me, and just kind of left it at that.
I wanted to try it, especially when we had Josie McCoy on the show, and be like, I have to at least get to his character so I have an educated conversation about, okay, I know who your character is. I know some of his attacks.
Yeah, that's what the internet is for.
I mean, I could have YouTubed it, but sometimes it's funner to actually play it and understand it from that point of view. But that's the kind of person I am.
Yeah.
I'd rather try it than just sit back and watch. Like, I'll watch plenty of stuff on YouTube, but then I'll want to go and try it. Hence, I've got way too many stupid things on Minecraft.
God.
I still play that.
Minecraft is a game I love watching. I love watching people play it. I tried playing it and got bored.
To me, it's basically Legos, the video game. But I love the creative side of things.
Minecraft never gets old, but it's so weird playing, because I'll be like, they just added horses, like now there's bees and there's goats and like all this stuff, and it's like
I think they just added walruses. I guess there's frogs.
Oh yeah, I've seen the frogs.
I haven't seen the frogs. We had one of the islands that we're at, because I have a realm with my wife, and one of the islands that we're at is where the sea turtles beach and lay eggs. So seeing the baby turtles go back into the water is really adorable, and the cave systems are unbelievable.
Now, one of the things we're currently watching is a YouTube channel where they're in Minecraft playing Survivor. like actually based on the TV show Survivor.
That's different.
Oh, that's cool though.
Complete with splitting everybody into 2 teams, challenge, and then the losing team, somebody gets voted off.
Wow. I
And
might have to throw that as a suggestion to one of the YouTubers that I watched. Like, the video I was laughing at was actually Family Feud in Minecraft.
But it's hilarious because there are those who know Survivor, who love Survivor, who are having way too much fun with it, and those that don't, who are just really good at Minecraft. And it's kind of really fun to watch that disparity.
That could be interesting. I know the JeromeASF, who I watch, recently did a live stream where the fans got to choose what happened while they tried to beat the game. Based off of their donations, random things would happen. For a $5 donation, they would get a piece of steak. For a $50 donation, they'd have a creeper dropped on them. So it could be good or bad. Somebody donated $500, and one of his team's players had their entire inventory wiped. And they were like, I don't know, an hour plus into the game, and I don't know if this person had died yet. So that was a lot of good stuff. They hadn't quite made it to the end, but I think they were trying to find obsidian to get to the netherworld, and they got wiped of everything, including diamond pickaxes and diamond armor, and
that hurts.
And one of the funniest things I think I've seen in a long time, and you can't plan this. Jerome, somebody donated, don't know the exact amount, but he was given creative mode for 10 seconds. So he grabbed a stack of 64 diamond blocks and 64 individual diamonds. Threw them off a cliff because he was down in a cave system. Didn't realize as he was pulling them off quickly that he was that close to the edge, so they fell quite a bit down. One of his friends, Steadfast, was down below, grabbed them. Went up to meet up with Jerome to give him the diamonds back, and just as he throws the diamonds at Jerome, a creeper spawn blows up and destroys everything. So they lost all those diamonds. Like, instantly.
No.
Instantly.
Wow.
And I laughed so hard at that. I'm like, you cannot plan this. I'm like, that would be something that would happen to me.
Yep.
But I think in the end, because they were sponsored by like a cheese string company, and the company that sponsored the video donated $25,000. It was $5 for every individual watch, and they had 5,000 people tune in. Over 5,000 individual views. So they ended up donating $25,000, and Jerome from his viewers raised, I think, 12,000. And it was for the Make-A-Wish Foundation.
Nice.
So it was a great charity, and at some point I would love to get to the viewership where we could do stuff like that. You know, because there's plenty of charities out there that, you know, we could donate to and support and stuff of that nature. And as a cosplayer, I'm sure that you've had the opportunity to, you know, you work with some big companies, but have you been able to go to like hospitals or things of that nature, or events where you can help cheer up sick children or things of that nature?
So I have, but it's not through, I guess it's technically cosplay. It's through a party performance company where we'll like go and we'll like I had this one kid, I was actually supposed to be at his birthday party, and then he got sick to the point where he had to go to the hospital. Now I'm waiting for the opportunity to go back to the hospital and just like celebrate his birthday with him, because we didn't get to celebrate our birthday together, and he really wanted to have his birthday with Spider-Man. So I've done a lot of opportunities like that, a lot of like more public donation of time type stuff where you just like go to the hospital and you meet kids, you talk to kids, and we will play a lot of games and stuff like that.
No, there was a group actually around Boston that has since fallen apart that did a lot of charity stuff.
Mm-hmm.
superheroes and some Disney. And one of the things I got to partake in was dressing up as Belle for the Special Olympics.
Oh, that's awesome.
And
That is really cool.
that was an overwhelming experience for all of us. Because it was a lot of... Because there were a lot of MCU characters there at that point. I think I was the only Disney that it could actually come out that day. Because for me, it was about a 10-minute drive to the venue. But those are some awesome experiences.
And as cosplay, you never know what kind of interactions you're going to have with the attendees of conventions. And I know I've told this story many a times. One of my early cosplays I did was Natsu Dragneel from Fairy Tail. And I was at Northeast Comic Con, got stopped by a family, mother, father, son, daughter. And the kids were probably, if I had to estimate, the oldest one was maybe 12. And the younger one was like 8 or 10, I would guess, just based off of how they looked, how tall they were, and whatnot. I don't really know for sure. And of course, they stopped to ask for a picture, which more than happy to do that. And after the photo was done and we were parting ways, the little boy turns to me and goes, "Natsu, you inspire me."
Oh.
And it's one of those cases of it doesn't matter what kind of day you're having. It could be the worst day of your life, and you hear that from a young child, and it just melts your heart. You're like, you know what? Things aren't bad. There's so much worse that could be happening, and things are good. Because I just made a little boy's day by dressing up. And I'm sure you've had those moments too.
Oh yeah, like we were at King Richard's Fair. It's either last year or 2 years ago. I think it was last year because I just started cosplaying Flynn Rider. And I made Rapunzel for my girlfriend as our anniversary present because she loved Rapunzel. So we went to King Richard's and there was a boy there. I think he was 16 and he had autism. And Rapunzel and Flynn were like his favorite Disney princess. So the mom came up to us first and was like, "This is my son. He's autistic. Like, would it be okay if we just like got a photo together?" And this was before I started like doing entertainment. I've done improv before, but this was before I got into like party performing and really knowing how to interact as a Disney prince. So like it was nice to give him like 5 minutes of just him time where he was just able to ask us questions and tell us like how much he loved Rapunzel and how much he loved our movie, and just like see his day be made and like give hugs, get a photo, and then he's like out on his way, and we just made his day, made his King Richard's Fair for that day. It's just like such a amazing experience.
And it's so neat, and these are things that a lot of people don't hear about. You go to conventions, you see the cool costumes, ask for photos, things that, or at least you should ask for photos. I know there are people out there who don't, but you should ask for photos. And a lot of it's just, "Hey, I love your outfit," and off you go. You don't think about some of the positive interactions that you have. And as cosplayers, sometimes we don't think about the influence that we have on somebody who stopped us for a photograph. To us, it's, "Yeah, sure, I'd love a photo taken." And you stop, take the photo, and then we continue on with our day, not realizing that we might have been the best thing that's happened to that person that day, that week, that month even. You just never know. And I think that's one of the beauties of cosplaying. And I don't cosplay as much as I'd like to, partially because of finances, partially because I haven't really found cosplays I think I look that good in, but that's also a self-conscious thing in my mind that I have to get over. I say that after dressing as Kobayashi from Dragon Maid for Anime Boston. So
Time and money is really what it boils down to.
Yeah.
And lack of space, especially living in small apartments.
Yeah.
Okay, that too. Like you are looking
I know your situation, so that's why I said that.
Nope, you are looking at the entirety of my living room, just about.
Yeah, I ran out of space in my cosplay closet, so the beast is in my normal people clothes closet, so I open it up and there's just a pile of fur on the ground. Just normal cosplay things.
How many cosplays do you currently own?
A lot, and I sell them and donate them and give them away. But I think I have over 20 right now.
Oh my gosh.
Hmm.
What's one of your favorite cosplays? I know for a lot of people, choosing your favorite costume sometimes is like choosing your favorite child, and it's almost impossible to do. But what's one of your favorite costumes that you've created and characters you've been able to portray at an event?
I think out of cosplays I own right now, it's probably Discord from My Little Pony, which is such a weird thing to say because My Little Pony's like pretty much dead except for the new generation. But like, oh my god, the reactions I get from him, and people are just so excited that like someone's bringing them back, and they just kind of like, because it's Discord, so it's not an exact recreation because there's no way to exactly recreate that. But they kind of stare at me for a moment, and then they realize what I'm cosplaying, and just like their eyes light up, and they get so excited. Or even if they don't know what I'm from, they're just like, "You look insane. Can I get your photo?" And like we get to talk for a little bit. So he's definitely my favorite right now.
And I'm trying to remember because I know some of My Little Pony having a 4-year-old, and I don't remember who Discord is.
Yeah, he's the one. He's the chimera looking one. He's a Draconicus, and he has like a snake body. And
Okay, I
a
know who
lion
you're
arm.
talking about.
Yeah.
I know who you're talking
I
about.
think I might have been cosplaying him when we met. I don't remember if I was in him or if I was in the Beast, but I think I was in Discord.
You could have been, which is probably why I stopped you. Kineticon was so many conventions ago. I have so much in my head.
My Little Pony is interesting to say from a cosplay perspective.
It's also weird because I'll be in Discord and I'm like a grown ass man, so no one really messes with me. And then I'll have my friends there who are girls dressed as the ponies, and like they've had a lot of not great interactions even now. So it's like a very hard thing to cosplay from.
There was one year, my friend and I, who at the time we were both approaching 30, and we were both dressed as two. We were two of the main six, and let's just say I got creeped on bad enough waiting in line at Dunkin' Donuts during Anime Boston, where someone at the front of the line literally noticed and jumped me to the front of the line just so I could get out of there.
Oh, yeah, no, bronies are vicious.
And and I recognize that is not the entire fandom, but that small minority of the fandom gives the entire fandom a bad name.
Yeah.
I think it's like that for all fandoms, though. It seems like every fandom you have those few toxic groups.
The bronies were a special breed. Like in
That's a good way to put it.
In cosplay, it's rare that I have actual honest to god creeper stories in cosplay. My Little Pony was the worst for that. Which I did not expect.
Which is interesting considering the fact we have a friend who actually commissioned Casey to make a Applejack gala dress for them. And we did that for BakuretsuCon years ago. And I remember it very well because I was helping to embroider the apples on the dress the night before driving. I think I ended up getting like 4 hours of sleep before driving from Cape Cod to Colchester, New York, or Colchester, Vermont, to bring him this gala dress for Applejack, which turned out amazing. And Casey went and made she made everything, including the corset, and it came out really good.
I got nothing.
But I personally have never cosplayed from it, so I don't know. My only real cosplays was like Natsu, Ginji, Kobayashi. At some point, I want to do Senko from Helpful Fox, Senko-san. If I'm going to crossplay, I'm going to crossplay the characters who have no figure, so I don't have to worry about fake boobs.
Crossplay I've done. That one was a fun one. Playing, dressing up as Raven from Tales of Vesperia, aka the comic relief. But
And talking about the ponies, we have Ross with I don't like the new generation by pictures I've seen these past 10 years. And technically, it's not called My Little Ponies if they stand and start looking like humans. A little better back in the 80s.
it's just different.
Yeah.
Having barely remembering some of the stuff out of the 80s from My Little Pony, I can say it's just different.
Yeah, there's so many. It's a weird fandom too, because there's so many interpretations of it. There's like the kind of more adult ponies that they use to, not adult, but like human ponies rather, that they use to sell like dolls and stuff like that. And then now we have the new generation coming out, and that has like a whole different moral. And then like they're bringing ponies back from Gen 4, I think it was, into the new gen. So
Then they
like
had like the
very
ponies that
interesting.
were actually turned into like real human girls going to high school, and they had the
Yeah.
hair and
That
stuff.
was a special. Oh God, I thought that was just a one-of special because I've seen pieces of that.
I thought you were
No,
gonna
I
say
think there
thought it
was
a
a
fever
series.
dream.
I
They-
think it was a series.
I
think it was a
don't
series,
know.
too.
That's one of those. That's one of those ones that got way too big, way too fat. The fandom got way too big, way too fast, and then it just died. Like one year, it was
Until you said it just died, I was going to say sounds like Pokemon. Got way too big, way too fast, but that's still going. That's not dead yet.
no. Pokemon will never die. No, Ross is
Darren might, though.
Darren dies every Sunday.
The heck with that.
Just checking if you're still awake.
I didn't work that hard this week. Only 90-ish.
Only.
Now, we were talking a little bit about crossplay. Have you done any crossplays yourself?
Yeah, I think you showed it before. I did Brigitte from Overwatch, so I do crossplay every once in a while. I don't think I have any coming up recently, but I mostly just do guys nowadays.
So if you had to say, if there was a bucket list character that you haven't done yet, what would it be?
Ooh, I've always wanted to do Chewbacca or C-3PO. I've always been a huge Star Wars fan, but like I can't sink the money into those costumes.
And Space Cow says the humanoid ponies were from a short, I think 3-movie series called Equestria Girls.
Oh, okay, they were movies then. I was like, I think they were a series, but I don't remember if they were movies or shows.
I knew it was more than one.
Yeah.
I remember
And I
seeing
knew
a
I'd
few.
seen a clip of it because one of my friends was obsessed with all that stuff when it was coming out.
And having daughters who are obsessed with it, it was okay, and I need to know at least some of this stuff. And I want to thank everybody once again for tuning in tonight. Welcome to Anime-Zing Radio. If this is your first time watching us or listening to us on the podcasts, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying the show. Tonight, our guest is Scree Cosplay, a very, very talented cosplayer out of the New England area. It's an honor to have you joining us once again. For those of you who are watching us live, and know that are kind of curious, we're talking cosplay. Why is there a figure on screen? It's kind of something that I do occasionally. Usually when I buy a new figure, I will display it, or I try to have a figure up almost every week. This one was especially fun because it was more of a joke figure bought than an actual, the character, I thought the figure was cute, and I know we teased this a little bit before coming on the air, but we'll tell the story so everybody can hear it. Last year, we tried to do an 18 plus, pre-record an 18 plus thing, and called AZR After Hours, where it's kind of like the adult or 18 plus panels type topics that you would see at conventions. Well, Darren didn't realize his microphone was very sensitive and could pick up when he muttered under his breath, "Nico, Nico, Ni," in the Nico voice. Ever since then, it's kind of been a running joke. So when I saw this figure at a very reasonable price, I had to get it. just to kind of poke fun. And, we talk about that we need to get Darren to cosplay. He's the only one on the panel here who has not cosplayed. And I keep jokingly saying he should cosplay as Nico, which he refuses for obvious reasons because she is annoying. Now, she's one of those characters that's cute until she talks. And then you're like, okay, I'm done. But, so that's the reason why we have Nico here. And I had the craziest idea when setting up before the show. She was going to sit like this high. And I'm like, how weird would it be to see her be like throughout the show? With her arms up, looks like she could be running from something. So I was kind of snickering at that. That's the 5-year-old in me, just having fun with the anime figure. Angela's shaking her head because she knows it's true.
Yup. We've been doing this too long.
And you're the newest edition.
Yup.
But we do have fun here on the show. So if you are listening in and have no clue what was just happening, I have a Nico figure from Love Live. Her arms are raised up. It's from the Sunny Day song figure from the School Idol movie. So if you are curious, you can look up and see what the figure looks like. And I had her kind of running across the screen with her arms extended above her head. It almost looks like she could be running, screaming, away from something. So having a little bit of fun.
Yep.
But once again, thank you so much for joining us, Scree Cosplay. It's great chatting with you, and thank you for taking the time out to join us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's awesome I ran into you and got to have this opportunity.
Now, you have cosplayed many different characters throughout the years. Mm-hmm. And have you always had an interest in sewing before getting into cosplay, or did cosplay kind of ignite that passion for you?
I think it was really ignited by cosplay. I did make plushies for a little bit when I was a kid, but that was kind of during me getting into cosplay. So, and making clothes totally different from making plushies. If a plushie rips, if cosplay rips, that's a totally different ballpark. But it taught me a lot of great skills when it came to sewing clothes and stuff like that.
Now, do you prefer to hand sew or use a machine?
I use a machine. I have a serger, which just kind of cleans up the edges, and then I have a normal sewing machine I use too.
And the reason I asked that is our guest last week, Ari Lynn, who is also a cosplayer, she hand sews. She had a negative experience with a sewing machine, and so she refuses to use them. So she hand sews everything now. So it's kind of neat to see how different people, based off of experiences, make their stuff. Because there's so many cosplayers out there who create things, but people don't get a chance to find out more about it. Mm-hmm. Which is one thing that's cool about doing a show like this, where we can find out more about how you create your costumes. Now, do you usually fall in love with a character and be like, I need to cosplay them? Is it a visual thing? Is it something that you have to try to envision yourself as the character? What makes you want to cosplay as a certain character?
Oh, I definitely see them and I fall in love with them immediately. I remember watching The Boys a year ago or 2 years ago, whatever it was. I saw Huey and I was like, I need to make his jacket. I gotta go ahead and do it. And now in later seasons, his jacket's all raggedy and gross. So I gotta make my cosplay for him all raggedy and gross too. But you just see a character and you're like, that's me. I gotta do him. I've also had people who have been like, no, you're gonna cosplay this character now. And I'm like, oh, I guess I don't have a choice. Because I'm such a simp for my friends. But for the characters that I really love and really enjoy cosplaying, it's usually characters I fall in love with.
Are there any characters that you regret cosplaying?
Oh, that's a good question. I cosplayed a version of Junkrat it was an artist, and they made a pizza delivery pizzaman Junkrat. And I made the cosplay, went through with it, and wore it for the first time at the con, and I just absolutely hated how I look. And I went down and I was like, guys, I really think I need to go back up and change. And I was only 16 or 17 actually at this time. So I was like, I think we got to go back up. And I needed to take them with me because I didn't feel comfortable going on my own because I was still a kid at the time. So it's that's definitely my biggest regret cosplay wise.
And I've been seeing an uptick in people who, conventions usually have a cosplay repair area,
Mhm.
but I've actually been seeing an uptick in people who volunteer to do cosplay repairs. Is that something that's been beneficial to you as a cosplayer at conventions to see, not just know that there's a certain room, but if you're on a, like the Heinz Convention Center is
Mhm.
huge. If something breaks on the third floor, you're not going to get to say if it's on the first floor very easily without worrying about destroying the costumes quicker. Have
Mhm.
you found it to be more beneficial to see people there who are willing to help out, might have like a hand sewing machine, like a small little battery operated thing with thread and stuff?
Oh yeah, I love those people. They are truly angels. They've helped me like more times than I can even remember. And just like they always have like such like a cute little setup with the signs and everything. Just like they've always been such a huge help to me.
And sometimes those are the unsung heroes of the convention world for cosplayers that you
Mhm.
don't think of.
Yeah, they truly don't know like how much they mean to people. Like when you're panicking, just breaking someone, and they come over with the hot glue gun. They're like, "No, no, I got this." Like, oh my gosh, thank you to everyone who's done that, have ever thought about doing it. Like, it means a lot.
And there's a lot of sides to cosplay that people don't know, and I know that,
Mhm.
a lot of times there's bad things, there's good things, there's a whole world of cosplay out there. And we try to showcase the positive side of cosplaying, and basically everything we bring on the show we try to showcase the
Mhm.
positive side, knowing that there's negative. uh, as a cosplayer yourself, what are some of the positive things that you've taken away from being a cosplayer that you could encourage somebody who might be thinking about cosplaying for the first time to give them that little confidence boost of being, you know what, I need to try this?
Oh, just like the amount of skills you learn and the friends you meet and the friends who can then teach you skills, like it's so worth it. Like I learned Blender from cosplay. Like who would even like equate a 3D modeling program with cosplay? And then like also just like meeting people and they're like, oh, I know how to use Blender. Like this is my Discord. Like let's set up a call. I'm gonna teach you how to use Blender so you can model this. And then like next thing you know, you're playing D&D with them and the session's been going on for months. Like it's so worth it, just the people you meet and the experiences you get to have and how much knowledge you get from it.
I
And
know
I
we're gonna laugh. Junkrat. Ross is comparing Junkrat to Chuck E. Cheese after you described that cosplay.
It really was. So if you're not familiar with Junkrat, he has like a little tire and it's like a bomb and he like sends it places and it can blow stuff up. But that was like a pizza instead of being a tire. So it really was Chuck E. Cheese.
That's funny. Just picturing that now is very comical.
No, that's
It's
And
amazing.
I actually heard that Chuck E. Cheese was not supposed to be a mouse. It was supposed to be something else. They ended up getting the wrong costume, and instead of spending the extra money to buy a new costume, it was cheaper just to rebrand it and call it Chuck E. Cheese, and that's how it got its originate.
I've never heard it, but I believe that.
I do remember reading that. Sometimes
Thank you, satellite radio.
sometimes origin stories are
Or no,
hilarious.
was it serious? Or the problem is, I listen to like when I'm at work, I switch between Sirius satellite radio and B or the Buzz out in Oklahoma that our friend Christy Rothrock works for in the mornings, and I don't remember which. It might have been Christy's show that I learned that about. I don't remember.
I think that might have for me. I think that might have been one of those random first thing in the morning going down a Facebook rabbit hole. That was one of those. You know how there's the sponsored links.
Yep.
The weird origin stories might be
Mhm.
one of those, and then that was in there. And
Man, we
but
get sidetracked on everything on this
yes,
show.
yes, we do. Nope.
If we didn't get sidetracked, people would think there was something wrong with this show. They would think that we were like
Yep.
on something if we stayed on topic for an entire show. I don't think we've ever done that, and I've been doing this
No.
8.5 years.
I have to say,
True.
it would be like gamers.
I was gonna say it'd be like you staying awake for a whole show.
He's done that once or twice since January.
I started falling asleep more when you came on because I felt the pressure of keeping the conversation going kind of removed. So I blame you, Angela.
That's fair.
We can't put all the blame on Angela when our Pokemon expert is sick and can't make the Pokemon special.
You're right. But then Angela missed her special due to
a bloody freaking migraine.
So same situation.
Exactly.
And I kind of have to be here being the main.
You know, it's your goddamn show.
I think in the 8.5 years of doing AZR, I think I've only canceled one show because of sickness. I've had many that I've had to cancel because of technical issues. Thank you to Blog Talk Radio, or Hazy Radio.
Travel, conventions.
Well, even traveling, I usually try to plan it to where I'm home in time to do a show if I already plan to do the show that night. A lot of people might not realize this, but a couple of weeks ago when we had Ken Irons and Mikey on the show on September 11th, I actually had traveled 6 hours back from the Pocono Mountains to northern New York after Colossal Con East weekend, and still did the show.
It was Kineticon you didn't.
Yeah, Kineticon, I had planned not to do a show because of the drive. We had already booked guests the weekend of Colossal Con, and then found out that we were press, and it was like, well, I kind of got to go now.
And then PoochieCon, we didn't do a show.
Nope, that was another one that was planned out ahead of time for no show. But at the same time, we were tabling at PoochieCon, so I really couldn't leave early and then drive the 6 hours back because didn't get home till almost 11 o'clock that night. And that would have been an hour after we were done with the show.
No, I don't know how you get the energy for that. I step home after a con and I'm like, all right, I'm done.
That is me most of the time. PoochieCon, I drove home in a rainstorm, and that was not fun.
And you were happy there was no show that night.
I think I got home, and I think I collapsed.
And you messaged me, and I was still driving home.
Yep.
But you also left long before I did.
Because I had to go to work the next day.
So did I.
You're insane.
True. That's why I've done 10 conventions so far this year, with potentially 1 in 2 weeks, maybe 1 Halloween weekend, and Anime-Zing. All depends on funds and...
Yeah, Anime-Zing is just not happening, but we've been over that.
Yeah.
I can't...
I think I'm planning Anime-Zing regardless of if we get invited as guests or not, because I do enjoy that con and I haven't been in years. So for you, Scree, what cons do you tend to frequent?
Oh yeah, I usually go to a bunch of Northeast cons around Atlanta, and then KatsuCon, so all over the East Coast. So Anime Boston, then MomoCon, Anime Week in Atlanta, Holmat, KatsuCon. And I usually go to Colossal Con East, but we skipped this year.
Why Atlanta?
Oh, that's where my girlfriend's from. So it's just easy to fly back down, stay with her parents, and then go to the con. Plus, it's very nostalgic for her.
Totally understandable.
Understand that.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to lie, looking ahead for growth of the show, I am curious about expanding the reach of trying to table at cons outside of the Northeast. This year, for the first time, we branched out to cons in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. So I think it would be fun to continue to grow the reach of the show to cons outside of this area. So any cons out there that people are interested in seeing us try to work with and get to within the next couple of years, send us ideas. Talk to your conventions if you'd like to see them bring us in as maybe a media guest or something like that. We would be more than happy to come to check out conventions all over the country.
Hell, if we get Doug a passport, it doesn't even have to be in the U.S.
I don't have one either, to be fair.
But you're also not as crazy to travel to conventions as I am.
Very true. I'm hesitant to even leave my dang county.
Unless
Hence,
it's to buy equipment.
I
Pretty
can't.
much.
I don't know you as well, Darren, so I can't harass you as much as I can harass him. And he lives less than 2 hours from the Canadian border without a passport.
I work probably 30 minutes from the Canadian border.
Yeah, you proved my point.
But to be fair, I moved up here in 2019, and then the pandemic happened, and it didn't seem like an important thing at the time. But now things are opening up, and I would like to travel more at some point. We'll get that stuff figured out. Maybe when I hit the lottery and not working 2 jobs and stuff. But
what would you, Scree? What would you say is your favorite convention?
Oh, it's a good question. I really like Hallmat. Just like it's a bit big, and I'm not really like a party person, but just like having the option to be with the weebs inside, and then you can go outside, and it's just like completely gorgeous. There's like rocks you can take photos next to, and there's a lot of water and everything. And plus, alligators are my favorite animal, and you can always look out on the golf course and see alligators, so that's huge plus. Also, the dealer's room is usually pretty good at Hallmat.
now, when you're going to conventions, and everybody goes to conventions for different reasons. For me, now with the radio show, it's more of networking, things like that. But I collect, as you can tell, collect anime figures and art and things of that nature. Angela is very big into the gaming side of things, so she enjoys going to the tabletop rooms and running D&D sessions, things of that nature. What's some of the stuff that you enjoy going to the conventions? Is it the cosplay? Is it masquerade? Is it dealer's hall?
Or the panels?
Mine's probably meeting up with friends. So I have friends from like all across the United States, and I've also made some friends who are outside of the United States coming here for conventions. And because all my friends are like 3 hours away from me, the only time we really all get together and like party and talk and meet up is during conventions. So like that's when we can really like go and plan stuff, and we'll plan cosplay groups together and do stuff like that. It's like I think that's the biggest things for me at cons. Like I could go to a convention, never go to a panel, never go to the dealer's room, stuff like that. As long as I can see my friends and just hang out with them, I think that's what makes it worth it.
And that's one of those questions. There's no wrong answer. It's just another way to highlight what makes these events so much fun. And I know for us here, like AZR was very severely affected by the pandemic. I didn't realize how much I relied on conventions for guests for the show until we couldn't go to them anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And so many other people miss the conventions because, like you said, you see friends. Some people, it's an escape from their daily life. It's stress relief. It's a whole bunch of different things. And when the pandemic happened and we weren't able to go, you realized how much you missed it when you couldn't go there.
Hey, where's my sweatpants?
I think Darren's talking to his mom, so we will mute him for the moment.
Saw the mute come on, and I was like, oh.
Making a serious statement again. Hey, where's my sweatpants?
Nope. Yeah, so
this is when you need a sweatpants anime figure for next episode.
Oh my god.
Gotta replace Nico with it.
I don't know if I have one. The closest I would have to that would be Yuna in her bear outfit.
You know what? Let's
I have to say, my characters don't even have pants on.
A different kind of anime figure.
bringing this back a few seconds. How would you say the pandemic affected you as a cosplayer, as like with the convention stuff, with your seeing your friends that you say you only see at conventions? What did you do during that period where there were no conventions?
Oh yeah, that was really hard because that was, as I said, my girlfriend was from Atlanta, so at that time we were still long distance, so I didn't get to see her either, and there wasn't even like we could go to a convention together. Like it was just I didn't see anyone. I really like relied back onto nostalgic stuff, which I think is why I ended up cosplaying Discord again and just like cosplaying stuff from my childhood, which was kind of interesting because I found a lot of people were doing the same thing. And I met a lot of people through TikTok and Instagram who were like cosplaying things that are also from their childhood, and we got to bond over that. And it's not the same as having like a in-person connection, but like being able to bond over media like this and bond over cosplay still just through social media was very nice and a very different change.
Now, through the pandemic, some places and some events, they tried to do virtual conventions. Did you partake in any of the virtual conventions that were out there? Like, I know that some of them even tried to do masquerades virtually, but just basing off of pictures sent in and things of that nature. Was that anything that you got involved with during the pandemic, or?
No, it was nothing I ever got involved with, and it's interesting because for a while I was training to become a horseback riding instructor. Totally off the rails, but I swear I'll bring it back. And we would try to do competitions, and you would just film like your kid riding on the horse, kid being like your student riding on the horse, and send that in. And it was very, very weird time for like masquerades, competitions, stuff like that. That's kind of has that more competitive nature.
And it was like, I didn't cosplay for any of them, but I did attend like the virtual Crunchyroll cons. I watched a few things from Funimation did a convention that I watched, and there were a couple of bigger cons that tried to do their conventions over social media or online that I partaked in, which I think for a convention, if you want to add the online atmosphere, is better for panels. I don't know how well like vendors did with people having to click links and check out their stuff. I think that probably didn't work out as well as they were hoping, but I don't
will
know.
say one of the more interesting bits, for me, conventions are 100% the social interaction. So I, for the most part, kind of avoided the online conventions. However, for the year they did PAX Online, because they had to cancel, I believe that was 2020. Basically, the year they did PAX Online, my brother-in-law was one of the Omeganauts. So that's what we ended up watching. And it was, you could definitely tell that there were some technical issues with doing it that way. Because people were everywhere and not quality. And it was really interesting to see some of that live.
And like I said, I think like from a panelist aspect, you are able to broaden out and reach a wider audience, as opposed to like Anime Boston, you're limited to the people who come into your panel room, as opposed to doing it virtually where anybody could log in. You could be talking to millions of people all over the world, not just 500 sitting in the room in front of you, which is kind of an interesting thing. But from a cosplayer standpoint, you don't have that interaction of, I'm in a masquerade, I'm competing against this person, but you're not seeing each other face to face. You can't ask each other advice. I love how you did this. Do you have tips on how I could do that or make this better? Or I know so many cosplayers who enter masquerades that talk with everybody else around them and have become friends, that it's like not a cutthroat community in some cases.
Oh yeah, that was definitely Kineticon for me. Just like everyone was so nice at the masquerade. What was interesting is I actually introduced myself to two people who I already knew, but it had been so long since I'd seen them because of the pandemic that I was just like, I didn't recognize you.
I'm actually Space Cow has something to say about that. Coming back to cons, when things started opening back up, it feels like there was this explosion of gratitude to be able to have the moments and interactions that are unique to events like them. And I will 100% agree with that.
Oh, definitely. And I think that's one reason why I was so excited to go back to Kineticon last year, which was our first con back. Now, so first con after a pandemic, everybody's still up in the air about, is it safe? Even now people are still questioning, are cons still safe to go to? What about this, that, and other stuff? But just to be able to go back to a convention, be surrounded in that environment, which there is, I'm a sports fan. I've been to tailgate parties. I've been to college sports events where things can get really insane. I've never felt an atmosphere like I did going back to an anime or a Comic-Con after the pandemic, because you knew the people who were there genuinely wanted to be there. I didn't feel that there was as many troublemakers as there had been pre-pandemic, where some people just go to ruin the time for others, or they're energy vampires per se. And to see just the general happiness of everybody, just to be able to dress up and be with friends and get out and have fun again, was really a cool thing to see for Kineticon 2021. And we're still somewhat seeing it now. Even like ColossalCon East, PucciCon, people are genuinely happy just to get out of their house and go to these events again. So hopefully that excitement can continue, but I feel like within the next couple of years we'll be back to where we were pre-pandemic, if people are just treating cons as they did before, of forgetting that it's a privilege to go to these cons, not an expectation.
Honestly, I'm not sure I'm not 100% sure we're gonna get back to that point. I think there's always gonna be some level of
Appreciation,
caution. There's and I don't know. I just don't see it going back to 2019 or early 2020 attitudes.
What I find interesting is we've seen cons have like a big spike in attendees, and a lot of convention centers aren't able to handle that, and they weren't expecting that. So I kind of want to see what's going to happen in the next few years, if that's going to stay stagnant, if it's going to increase, decrease, because like I honestly don't know. So many people have gone into anime, video games, and cosplaying just from TikTok, Instagram, and stuff like that. Like I wonder what's going to happen in the near future.
I could see that going either way. And I think inflation and subsequently the rising costs of everything is going to play a factor. For example, yesterday we were, my friends and I were talking about MagFest, and a couple of my friends are going, and I can't because between other travel that I have already planned and the fact that the badges alone are over $100, and that's for pre-reg. It's going to go up even more after November. And when you factor in the cost of getting there, the Gaylord's expensive. So I would not be surprised if some of those things factor in for cons across the board. But I could also see the smaller cons that don't charge those kind of prices actually have the opposite, where they just get overwhelmed because they're not prepared for that many people.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think pre-pandemic, we did many shows. Darren and I talked a lot about, is there an oversaturation of conventions where there were so many new cons popping up all over the place? And then when the pandemic hit and everybody had to cease going, I'd heard talks of some bigger cons struggling because they didn't have the income to cover the costs when the cons were going to come back, because of missing a year's worth of revenue. Some smaller cons were forced to fold up because they didn't have the revenue to go forward. And then starting to see some new cons that are popping up, starting off slow. Rail City Fan Fest in St. Albans, Vermont is one that comes to mind. That this is a young kid. I want to say he's probably early mid-20s, that decided, somebody dared me to put on a convention, so I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it in Vermont, which is one of the toughest states to get a convention going. And I want to do it my way and not let people dictate how I'm going to run things and such, which impressed me to the point we did sponsorship for them this year in their first year. And the way the con went impressed me so much that we're sponsoring them again next year, and we're providing them with a guest. So definitely, if you are in the New England area and you want to travel to northern Vermont in late summer, it's beautiful up this way. I can say that from experience because I live up this way, across the lake from northern Vermont and northern New York. But the convention was a lot of fun. The staff was unbelievably awesome. I would put the staff at Rail City right up there with PucciCon staff as some of the best staffers that we have encountered at conventions in my 8.5 years of going to conventions. So I am very happy to be working with them and seeing small cons like that trying to make a name for themselves, but he can't afford to bring a guest in on his own, which is why we're doing that to help him grow. But I think he's doing it right. Some cons we've seen pre-pandemic where like, okay, we had a better first year than expected. Let's blow it out of the water in the second year and they fold. I'm sure, Scree, you've seen that with some conventions you've attended where they got too big too fast, couldn't maintain the momentum and collapsed. Or
Oh, yeah, it's always sad too, especially just like a lot of the cons I used to go to as a kid, just seeing them now, and it's like they're struggling to stay on their feet, and the guests aren't holding up to what they used to be, and stuff like that. It's hard to see. That's also someone's like passion and livelihood.
And the guest side of things, that's even been difficult. Like Anime Boston this year, really, I think they only had a couple of international guests, where years past you'd see like 20 guests. It'd be like 12 or 14 English guests, and then you'd have 6 to 8 Japanese guests. This year, I think they only had a couple of Japanese guests.
I will say that's probably due to
travel restrictions.
Japan is
Japan.
And their restrictions with COVID have been, from everything I have seen, a nightmare. Like,
I did see that they are starting to open up their borders a little bit more to international travelers.
They are fully undoing the restrictions effective October 11.
So anybody looking to go to Japan, book your trips.
And with the yen being very weak right now due to Japan's loss in tourism for almost 3 years, and now is the time to go just because of the exchange rate, if nothing else.
Which means I should look into really getting my passport and planning a trip.
Yes, I've been telling you this. You could probably spend a week just in Akibahara alone, knowing you.
I would be broke.
Same here.
With my figure addiction, I would be broke. If I had the money, I could do one of those like $1,000 challenges like they did on Trash Days just by myself.
Whereas for me, that was what I did. That was my, I'm going shopping for everyone else. My shopping for myself happened in Shinjuku.
I'd be very excited for the food tour personally of Japan. So many good foods to try.
That was another thing we did.
Ooh, as you should.
My problem is I don't eat seafood, and I know that's very big in Asian culture.
Mm-hmm. I will say this on that note. One of the things we did in Japan when we went in 2018 was the Shikiji Fish Market, which is is the big famous one. And at lunchtime, I grabbed basically it was a rice bowl with salmon and tuna sashimi on top. It was literally caught hours before I consumed it, and my husband, who does not like fish at all, took a chunk of the fish because he's like, well, I have to try it, and he said it wasn't bad. But given here, he does not do seafood like at all unless you count tuna fish out of a can.
I can't even do that.
I'd say I'll do shrimp and a couple other things, but I'm not much of a seafood person myself.
But like at CCE, because as they say, as you get older, your tastes change. At CCE, my wife did get calamari at the restaurant we went to, so I tried a bit of it. The sauce was amazing, but I was like, nah, it's too fishy tasting for my taste buds.
Calamari for me is a texture thing. I don't like it.
I didn't like the taste, the fishy taste. It's just I can't do that.
Sometimes you bite into stuff and you're just like, I'm biting into the ocean right now. I've been there.
Nope. But no, that is actually, irony enough, that's like half my Instagram pictures are food between baking as a hobby and travel. And we're actually foodies, so
if I did go to Japan, I would have to try that fried chicken that abroad in Japan is always raving about.
Dude, that's convenience store. That's basically the equivalent of going to 7-Eleven and getting chicken on a stick.
No, I'd go to like Japanese McDonald's just to see like how different it is from American McDonald's.
It is very different. Japanese McDonald's is significantly better.
That's good to know.
I would be curious about Domino's only because I work for one.
Japanese take on pizza was interesting.
I mean, they had the tsundere pizza.
But no, we did the two American franchises that we did actually try were McDonald's, which was actually better than McDonald's here, and Krispy Kreme, which was really interesting.
Do they not have a Dunkin' Donuts over there? Because you're from Boston, you got to try that Dunkin'.
We didn't find a Dunkin' Donuts. Krispy Kreme was one of those it wasn't a we went looking for it. It was a we found it.
I think it found you, actually. It was meant to be.
And Japanese Krispy Kreme, there was a lot of savory donut options, which I could not wrap my head around. My husband got one that was effectively, it was filled with what amounts to like a pot pie.
Huh.
I don't remember if it was like a mushroom or a chicken pot pie type filling, but you get the idea. Yes, I'm talking about Krispy Kreme. He's saying it was something in mushroom. Chicken and mushroom. It was basically chicken and mushroom in a donut, and that I could not wrap my head around that, so I stuck with. He says it was okay. He's hearing me yelling across the room.
And we can hear him.
It was a core memory. Had to chime in.
For me, I stuck with. I got a matcha flavored one because again, that's not something you could get in the States, and if you like matcha, it was really, really good. However, matcha, I understand, is one of those very polarizing flavors. You either really like it or you really don't.
I don't think I've had it, to be honest. I would probably have to try it just once.
But with the area we purposely picked a Japanese style hotel as opposed to a Western style hotel, and we did it a little off the beaten path, so we were in a very Korean neighborhood, and so we were able to just like walk up the street and get really good Korean street food in Tokyo.
He said that's the way to do it. Is not to go to the touristy areas. Go to the areas that are off the beaten path where you can get a true feel of the native culture, not just the tourist side of the culture. But you do have to be careful. You do have to be careful. We've seen many videos of people who kind of get tricked by scammers and stuff like that.
I could probably ramble for quite some time about just food in the food we've experienced in our travels.
Oh, I'm sure.
But that's one of the things we're we're going to London next month. And that's going to be the other thing, is we're purposely going to, I think we're going to try and find McDonald's in other countries and compare it to McDonald's in the US.
That could be an interesting series.
I have to say, whatchamacallit, Food Wars already did that. Not Food Wars the anime. There was actually a guy from the UK and a guy from America that did fast food comparisons.
Yep, I think I've seen. We watched that with the episode regarding energy drinks. Because my husband has a caffeine addiction and hates coffee.
I hate coffee.
Granted, I love coffee. Yep.
Tell me what otakus don't live off of Mountain Dew at some point in their life.
That would be this person right here. I can't stand Mountain Dew.
I'm a tea drinker.
No, I had a Mountain Dew phase. It was more of a redneck Mountain Dew phase than was anime, but
I survived off of Mountain Dew for most of my 20s and 30s. Now this is only, and I say only my second can, but there have been times where I've drank a 24 pack in 2 days. So I have cut way back on the amount of soda that I drink. I drank 8 cans of Mountain Dew between Wareham, Mass and Springfield, Mass, driving in a snowstorm in the middle of winter to a train show because a friend of mine was having a breakdown and needed somebody to talk to. And I left working his shift at a Chinese restaurant at 11 p.m. For those who don't know, it's about a 2-hour drive in good weather. It was raining in Cape Cod when I left. When I hit the 495-95 interchange, it switched to snow.
Yep.
And with snow the whole way from 95 to Springfield, which was probably an hour and
95 or 90.
Well, driving 495 to 90 and going. It was at that interchange where it was. I took 495 up to exit. I think it was 22 to get on the Mass Pike and head west.
Yep. I know exactly where you're talking about.
And right at the 95 interchange was like somebody drew a line on the road. Okay, this side it's raining. This side it's snowing. There's no slight mixture to go in. And the idiots in front of me hit the brakes and crashed. A BMW and a Mercedes. I watched one spin to the left and one spin to the right.
No, I have a story like that. My story like that goes, our friend had come up to visit, and no one had told me that we had to drive him back home because the person that was supposed to drive him home had too much to drink, so I got volunteered. And this is the middle of winter, and it's snowing, and I'm going from Lowell to Halifax, Massachusetts. And the person I was driving home didn't have a driver's license, so had really no idea how to give me directions. And this was in the days before GPS, before smartphones and GPS. And I'm literally driving all the way down Route 3, complete to where it turns into this little 2-lane back road in the middle of a snowstorm.
Ah, the good old days.
And then I literally had to turn around and go back because I had to be at work.
Oh.
So I got home at 2 a.m. and had to be at work, I think, at 7.
Oh.
I was not happy, Kipper, at the end of that.
Oh, I'm sure.
Mm-hmm.
Now, going back to cosplays and conventions and stuff, you said throughout your life you've gone through phases of, cosplaying anime characters to video game characters. You're now into the horror side of things. What are some of the horror cosplays that you're looking at doing that you haven't done already?
Oh, yeah. So I love fun horror. So I love Beetlejuice, Little Shop of Horror, Monster High. I'm big into. I really think I've pretty much done all the horror I've kind of want to. I've always thought about cosplaying Frankenstein and seeing if my girlfriend would be down to do Bride of Frankenstein, just because I think it would be fun to have like those big like hulking cosplays, just kind of like wiggle hobble around the con. But I don't think there's any other horror I want to do as of right now.
Have you done like Tim Burton's Nightmare Before Christmas, which I know was a very popular movie? Anything like that, or?
I actually haven't, surprisingly, which seems like something I'd be into, because that's a very like fun horror. And like I've watched the movie, I've been into the movie, but I've never cosplayed from it.
Which I know I've seen some people cosplay that from that in the past, and it's always entertaining to see their people's takes on it. I know you were talking about one that you want to work on is Howl from Howl's Moving Castle. Are there other Studio Ghibli characters that you've cosplayed or that you want to?
I think Howl's about it. Howl actually started. So I have a friend. She's really into Howl's Moving Castle. Sophie's her favorite character. She's dyed her hair like Sophie every year for the past like 5 years or so. And every single convention, she's like, I'm gonna get a Howl this convention, and then the convention comes and she's alone as Sophie again. So this convention, I was like, I'm gonna throw Howl together. We're gonna do Howl and Sophie. Like we're gonna make it work. So finally this year she'll have a Howl and we'll be able to do like a duo cosplay together.
That's awesome.
And you mentioned going through like American cartoons. So what kind of American characters have you cartoon characters have you done or do you want to do?
Oh, yeah, I think really the only one I've left out. I was big into cosplaying Steven Universe when that was big. I did a lot from Hell of a Boss. We just started cosplaying from that. It's just kind of like more of stuff like that. And Hell of a Boss is interesting because it's more of an indie cartoon. There's Puppy Cat and Bee. I think it might be Bee and Puppy Cat. I think I said that backwards, which is just another fun one.
And we have a really good question that just came in from the chat. Space Cow wants to know, speaking of snow, the cold is starting to come in, at least up here. What sort of challenges, opportunities show themselves when it comes to cosplaying in the winter?
So I don't get to benefit from the winter time as much because most of my cons are in Georgia now. But definitely one of the difficulties is just dealing with the cold. In the summer, it's a different difficulty because you're dealing with stuff melting. In the cold, you don't have to deal with stuff melting. You just have to deal with you freezing. And as an actor, that's another big challenge because I don't know how I'm going to do Spider-Man parties in the winter because all the princesses, they all have little coats they can put on. They can put on shawls, stuff like that. Spider-Man's just a suit. He's just a bodysuit. And all of his stuff, all of his activities are very like mobile too. So I don't know how I'm going to get the kids to like be wanting to run around and do stuff with me.
Hopefully you have a lot of indoor events as Spider-Man.
Yeah. That's what I want.
I will say it's interesting to see given some of the unique weather patterns of Boston. 1 year PAX East, we had 1 year PAX East was literally freezing, and you had all these people who were preparing for it to be warmer and were in the cosplays you'd see more in like the spring and summer. And of course, that was the year they let people. They didn't stop people from waiting outside to get into the building because that was the year Markiplier was there.
Oh yeah, that's a big one.
And then there was 1 year when unseasonable cold, and then you saw there was a girl cosplaying Aloy from Horizon Zero Dawn, and like it was absolutely perfect because they managed to not overheat with all of those that big heavy jacket. But from my experience, it's a lot of you have to prepare for it.
Yeah, Anime New York City last year was just a complete disaster because they had to figure out the line situation all over again. And I talked about before with like kind of the overabundance of people going to cons. Now everyone was waiting outside. It was freezing cold. They were out there for hours. And I was very fortunate because that was when I was working with the MiHoYo booth. So I was an ether who was like basically in a crop top. And I was able to bypass the line, and it was just like, I was happy I didn't have to be in the cold, but it was just the worst feeling being like, I want to like take all these people in with me. It's like they're all out here freezing. They all bought different cosplays, and like, yeah, I can sit in like outside for an hour in a crop top. Like I can deal with that, but like they were like hitting on the 4-hour marks, 5-hour marks. It was just ridiculous.
And one thing that you see photos of cosplayers who do snow photography, and though a lot of times those shoots take. It's not a 10-minute shoot. A lot of times it could be an hour or even longer. Have you, throughout your time of being a cosplayer, done many photo shoots in the snow or anything like that? Or
Oh yeah, I do a lot in the snow because I have a few characters I do that are associated with snow. Because I do Abby Abominable from Monster High, and then I also do Kristoff from Frozen, and that ends up getting a lot of photos done because we need photos for the company. So we actually did a snow photo shoot this past like February or something with my friend, and it was just us rolling around in the snow. There's like a scene in Frozen where he comes out and he like goes into the hotel sauna area, and he's just covered with snow, and they were like, we want you to recreate that. So they're like packing snow on me, and it was sticking to the cosplay, and it was a lot. It was a lot of fun though, no matter how cold I was. Plus we live in
big summer blowout.
Yeah, exactly. We live in New England, so we just went and got hot chocolates after, and it was all worth it.
And I've never really done. I've never been on the cosplay side of cosplay photography. I've helped out my wife when she's done cosplay photo shoots and stuff. And it's always neat to see what a cosplayer is willing to put up with to get that perfect shot.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the diehard cosplayers are a different breed from most people. And hats off to you guys who go above and beyond to make sure that you are representing your characters as true as you can. I don't think there's enough appreciation for people like you who you don't just dress up as the character, but you become that character. You want to have the personality. You want to have, the voice as close or speak as close as what they would say in certain situations and stuff, which, hats off to you for the performing aspect of the cosplay.
Oh yeah, something you don't get to see is cosplayers in their room practicing different poses for the character before the convention starts.
And there's so much behind the scenes that a lot of the average attendees of these conventions, and when I say average attendees, it's not just like the parents of cosplayers, but they're like parents who bring their kids to a convention not really knowing what's going on, and they're like, oh, those are kind of neat costumes, but in their mind they might think it's more of, oh, it's like a Halloween type costume as opposed to something that you might have spent, as you said, 6, 8, 10 months on creating it yourself, having to go to Joann's or whatever fabrics place to find that perfect fabric that you want to put in. And how much planning goes into creating your costumes? Do you like spend hours searching online for fabric? Do you go to a lot of different stores? Because I know having a wife who makes cosplay, we have spent countless hours in Joann's or Michael's or whatever fabric store we could find to find like what would work the best.
Oh yeah, it takes hours, and then a big part of it too is just like you're sitting with like multiple different screens. They all show colors different way. You're like clicking through different pictures of the character, trying to find like the most common color, and then comparing that to the fabrics, and then being like, okay, do I want a detailed fabric? What kind of fabric do I want to use? And then there's like that kind of like knowledge leap where you have to know different kinds of fabrics and know, do I want this to be accurate? Do I want it to be stretchy? Do I want like a different time period? Because like I can't do polyester if I want it to be accurate to the time period, but also polyester is going to be cheaper and a lot more comfortable. So it's just, and then you also have to think about your own budget, think about your own kind of skill sets. Because like if you're making something for the first time, like if I was to make a bodysuit, I wouldn't want to get really expensive stretchy fabric because I haven't made a lot of bodysuits before. So I don't want to make that bodysuit and then it doesn't work out and I spend a ton of money on it. But also like you want it to look good. So you don't want to get like fabric that's not going to work out for the character. So it's a ton of hoops, a ton of stuff you need to decide between. Hope you're making the right decision before you can like actually buy fabric.
And when it comes to creating the costumes, are there times when you do little things like, I know a lot of costumes people will create, but they don't think about putting like a hidden pocket for phone and money and ID and things like that. Is that something that you try to plan into the costumes that you create if they don't have pockets that you can see with the characters?
Oh yeah, pretty much every single costume I do now, as long as I can fit it in, I do pockets. Like this costume, so this costume's fun. I have Ghost on the inside, and a ton of it glows in the dark. This all glows in the dark, and then it has pockets on the inside because I don't have pants pockets, so like it all works out. Discord has like giant pockets on the front, which I actually can't reach my hands in because he has like fursuit arms, so I can't really reach in there. But if they don't, sometimes I'll make a bag that kind of matches with the character, just so I can like have it all flow together.
Because that's a side of cosplay I think people tend to forget, because there's times that we have done costumes and it's like the Cat Planet Cuties ones especially was like, we don't have any pockets. So we had to make these special little pouches that kind of looked like a belt that we could keep like a wallet or a phone or something in. That went with the costume, but we literally had no pockets, nowhere to put anything. So it's something I think that cosplayers sometimes overlook, especially when you're first starting out, is where am I going to hold money? If I'm going to the dealer's hall or artist alley and I want to purchase stuff, I need to make sure I have money or some form of income on me to pay for the merchandise I want to get without having to run all the way back to the room, change out of this, or carry it in my hand. And so, there's a lot of hidden things I think that especially newer cosplayers don't think about.
Yeah, and I've had handlers before, but like my friends will always offer to handle for free, and it's like, no, I'm at least paying you, buying you dinner, getting you coffee, like, and people don't think about like how much energy goes into handling too, because like you're carrying bags, you're carrying phones, you have to like make sure no one's trying to call me on my phone, stuff like that. So like even if I don't have pockets, I'll be like, well, I'm wearing tall boots, I could put my phone in my boot and maybe that'll work, and just like finding other ways to be more independent of other people.
No, that was one of my cosplays that was handmade was a character from Game of Thrones, which I absolutely love. And my friend who makes a lot of her own cosplay helped me out with that. And and the dress came out perfect. And with the leftover fabrics, she actually made a drawstring bag that basically would be the size of a small purse, which basically perfectly fit my wallet, my phone. And while not necessarily accurate to the time period, it was perfect.
Oh yeah. Because like I'll be with the Disney princesses and I'll be Flynn Rider, and Flynn has 2 bags, so it's really convenient. But like they'll all be giving me their phones and I'll be giving me their wallets and everything else they have, and they're just like, all right, just don't open it around the kids. And I'm like, all right. So I'll just like carry around all the princesses' phones and wallets and keys, and
Yep.
you just got to get that one designated carrier person.
No, I've also been the handler. My husband and I did a volunteer thing for some local thing. He was dressed as Iron Man. And subsequently I became the handler. and it was one of those, it was still just as rewarding, but a very different experience.
Sometimes you go to a con and just become the handler too. Your friend's like, oh, I can do it on my own, but they can't do it on their own.
Oh.
And I've been a handler as well for a friend of mine that was a fursuiter. That's a whole nother level of being a handler, because they can't see anything, and half the time they can't hear anything. So you have to be their eyes and ears for people who want photographs, come up for hugs. You basically have to have a head on a swivel at that point.
Yep.
You know, I've never worn a fursuit, but I've done mascot suits for parties, and oh my gosh, I can't even imagine sinking thousands of dollars into something, and then you go to a con, you can't see. It's such like taking away all your senses, but like I can imagine it must be so rewarding for them too.
I just remember a fursuiter at PAX East who I got a chance to chat with briefly. They had just finished their suit. Like, their suit had literally been finished like days before the convention started, so they were just like super happy with the overall experience.
And I have a lot of respect for the people who fursuit. A lot of them look amazing. B, you know they're dying inside unless they're good at wiring. And I do have some friends who are good with the electrical side of things and will put like little computer fans in there so that they can stay cool. But those get really, really hot. And it's not uncommon at conventions to see fursuiters who are sitting down because they've become dehydrated. They're not drinking enough water. Because they don't realize just how warm it gets in those. You're wearing a suit basically of fur and foam, which does a really good job at retaining heat.
Yeah.
And that's, we get into that's its own. The fursuiters are, it's their own.
They're a different breed too.
Fandom. It's that's what they're passionate about, and I've seen some have basically designed and made or commissioned their original characters, and a lot, you can tell how much work goes into that, and it's amazing. Definitely not necessarily my thing, but I have a lot of respect for that.
And I'm dumb enough to want to try it. So if I had the money, I already have a fursona in mind. So but if I hit the lottery, I could do all sorts of things that have been on my mind. But I think we all can say that.
Now, if I won the lottery, I'd own a house. I would own a house, and I would travel the world.
Setting the bar low of owning a house. I feel like that's just what our economies come to.
I live in the city.
Oh yeah.
That's one of those this close to the city, the housing prices are ridiculous.
Yeah. And I always laugh because you see the posts that go around on social media. If you won the lottery, what would be the first thing you would buy? Not counting paying bills, da 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 da. And people are buying a car, a house, da da. I'm like, if I'm being completely 100% realistic here, I would probably buy an anime figure. I'm not gonna lie. First purchase would probably be like, okay, what figure have I been looking for? Let's get that.
I would probably first purchase would probably be food.
Get one of those golden pizzas.
The first big thing would be a house, probably a new car, and then it would be travel to whatever's next on our bucket list.
And good God, is it 10 already?
Yes, it is.
Oh my God, this time has flown by.
Yep.
Wow.
You got 2 minutes according to the timer on my phone. And the clock's gotten fast.
Space Cow says what they would do is pay their student loans.
Before we say good night, because my God, 2 hours just flew by.
Yep.
Obviously, Scree, thank you so much for joining us. We want to give you a chance to promote yourself anywhere people can find you on social media, any convention appearances you have coming up, how people can get a hold of you if they want to get more information from you about the cosplays that you've made. We call this our shameless plugging section, and the floor is yours.
You all can find me at Scree Cosplay on TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube. If you have any questions or want to send me anything, you can find me at ScreeCosplay@gmail.com. I'll be coming to AWA in October 25th to 28th, I believe. And then other than that, I'll be at Holmat this year, so you can catch me at both those conventions.
Awesome. Thank you so much for joining us. It has been an honor and pleasure to chat with you on the show. I'm so glad that we met at Kineticon and that you reached out, remembered us, and wanted to come on the show, because this has been a blast. Like I said, I can't believe 2 hours just flew by.
Oh yeah, thank you so much for having me on here. Y'all have been amazing. It's been so nice getting to speak with y'all.
Likewise.
Once again, we want to remind everybody that next week here on Anime-Zing Radio, October 2nd, we're going to do our fall anime preview. We're going to talk about the shows that are coming out next season. As the summer season is coming to an end, some shows have already ended, some are about to. We will talk about what we're looking forward to for fall 2022, and who knows what other random nonsense. Coming up October 9th, we've got Genshin Impact voice actor Griffin Burns is going to be joining us. So it's going to be a lot of fun talking with him. Hopefully he doesn't think we were stalking him, considering the fact that we've been to 3 cons that he was a guest at this year. Would have been 4 if I was going to DerpyCon, but I'm not. I had somebody ask if we were going to DerpyCon. I was like, we can't make that. And then I saw him get announced as a guest there. Coming up October 16th, we have Dan Flanders joining us. Manic Dan from Manic Mart. And then coming up October 23rd, Crunchyroll voice actress Christy Rothrock will be joining us. We're not going to be talking about anime. We're going to be talking about spooky ghosts, Halloween stuff, all the fun ghouls and goblins and that crazy stuff, since it's going to be right around Halloween time. So hopefully you're able to tune in for those shows. We have a lot of amazing guests. We are working on filling up the end of October and November. Of course, as a reminder, we do take 2 weeks off this year. Christmas and New Year's fall on Sunday, so obviously we will not have shows those nights. But I think just about every Sunday between now and then, we are planning on doing a regularly scheduled show, unless a convention pops up, and a main weekend might be iffy, depending on what time we leave there and get home. But until next week, when we do our fall preview and talk about what shows we're looking forward to come fall 2022 season, thank you to everybody for tuning in. Thank you to our sponsors, Home Circle Media and Casey Fox. Thank you to our wonderful co-hosts, Angela Rose and Darren Starling, for joining us as always. And of course, a big thank you to Scree Cosplay, our amazing guest who joined us tonight. I hope everybody has a wonderful and safe week this week. We'll see you here Wednesday night. Probably going to do a random just talk whatever. Nothing really scheduled as of yet for that. But we've been having fun with the random Wednesday night shows. But like I said, next Sunday, the fall preview. Until then, stay safe, keep watching anime, and we'll see you here for more Anime-Zing Radio right here on not Blog Talk, on Facebook, Twitch, and YouTube.